Hello, this is Joseph Jensen again, Joseph A. Jensen Sr. I found out that on YouTube they added a lot of Joseph Jensens on top of where I was at. There was only one before. Now there's about 6 videos with my name on it. Is that suspicious? Of course it is. But now you can look me up under Joseph A. Jensen Sr. And I don't think you're going to find a lot of people putting anything on top of that. Where they can find me. Today, I talked about a lot of things in my first video and a lot in my second video. The second video was pretty much specific. First video touched on a few things. Today, I want to talk about light and darkness. I want to talk about life and death. I want to talk about the children. Now, I'm making this video starting, it's about 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning. And it's God that's been impressing me for the last 2 nights, telling me about what he wants me to talk about. Now, once you learn about God, you're going to find out he won't let you sleep too much. Keeps your mind busy when it's got an agenda. It's got an agenda. Now, people, it's got to do with agendas, have to do with creating things, building things, going to the gym, becoming, if you're an athlete, you're doing things, okay? This agenda that comes from inside of you, teaching you what to do, how to get to accomplish your goals, and how to do your goals. You automatically, instinctively know how to do things, whether you go to day in school or not, or whether you studied or not. Your ancestors and your parents, if they're deceased, with God, are constantly telling us what to do ahead of time. We're smarter than any animals. Of course, what do they do every day? They don't do much. They defend themselves, and they also, they run from each other. They stay out of each other's way. This is a daily thing for them. They can't really get any more advanced because they got a busy day. Animals haven't got time to try to create things. It's not, and I'm not going to say they're not smart enough, but man was created in God's image. We're able to create things. And because we're able to create things, we do. But who do we create them for? Is it for ourselves and for an employer? What are we doing these things for? Well, let me let you in on something clue here. God is light. Light can be defined as in one situation as anything seen. Okay? Everything that's seen is light. The opposite of light is darkness. Interpret it what you will, but it says to me, darkness is everything that's unseen. You don't know what's in darkness. It's unseen. But if you can see it, it was created by God because he is light. What is light? Again, everything that's seen. What is darkness? Everything that can't be seen. Darkness has a vacuum. Over 70% of this universe is created of dark matter. Dark matter. 25% of that is dark energy. Now, dark energy is basically a vacuum. It'll suck you in. It'll suck you into that darkness. Now, God's opposing forces in light are gravity, inertia, things like this. We can propel things. Gravity will hold us down. Things that happen. God's forces are more than just light. They're invisible forces, of course. Magnetism. Centrifugal force. All these things, God has more properties than just light, but light is the one thing that has a real good definition, says anything that can be seen. So basically, since the beginning of time, God has been creating things through us from the beginning of time. While we're asleep, he's teaching us. Finally, we fall asleep into a REM sleep where we can finally get some rest because we're exhausted. But until then, they don't, between your ancestors and God, they are constantly teaching us. Like I said, you didn't ever spend a day in school. You still could be an intelligent human being. Building the pyramids, like I pointed out in the other video, is no big thing. Neither are these cultures that built the Mayans, the Aztecs, and everybody else. The only problem with it is when it comes to what we do, why we create things, and then they turn into like worship other things. Like I said, the Aztecs built beautiful things, so did the Mayans. It's a mystery today of all that they did. But you know what? This stuff here is, we have taken it to the things where we worship these things. We have set human sacrifices to these things. We put in our own creativity, which is kind of like twisted. When in actuality, God says we can do anything through God. God can do anything through us, basically. So what I'm saying, God's in us. Whether you believe in God or not, if you think that you had never listened to God, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're always doing things for God. And if you really feel like you don't want to do anything for God, all I can say is you need to find another way of living. If you're on this planet, if you're a human being, you are going to be manipulated by your own ancestors, by your own parents, if they're deceased. Everybody is involved. They're teaching us. How do you think we get so intelligent? You think it's from books or libraries? Sure, we learn a lot from there. But who's coaching us to go find out more? Reading us more? It's not rocket science. Come on. So anyway, you know about light. The opposite side is darkness. It's a vacuum. It will suck you in. Now, if you want to say good and evil, say good and evil. But anything outside of light or anything outside of us, God and us, is evil. It surrounds us. This evilness, it's the stories of Satan. It's the stories of the fallen angels. It's all the old things around us. And in reality, it could not even exist because it might be all folklore. If evil is out there, it might be man-created. You don't know. Nobody really knows. We could conjure up every kind of story there is about UFOs, or we could conjure up every story about magic and everything else. But who's to say it's still not man-made? Now, let's talk about these things that are outside of our own bodies, because I said the bodies house the DNA. DNA is heaven. God is in heaven. Our ancestors are in heaven. Like I said, your parents are in heaven if they're deceased. Now, if everything outside of that body that exists is trying to get in, but it can't get in, it's not going to get in. Even when it tries to talk to you and can hear this stuff and everything like that, physically, it's not in you. You just heard it. You're thinking about it, but you're just hearing it. They can't physically come into your body. They can't enter your DNA. Now, you can act weird and you can go crazy and everything like that. That's your free will. But it's not going to be in your DNA. You're not going to be evil by DNA. And you evil people out there that are following Satan, guess what? You're capable of having children that have not got the same problems you got. Your children, as far as I know, every child that's ever born is very innocent. They haven't got any traits. And even if they got a drug addiction or whatever, they're still beautiful babies that haven't got anything. I was an autistic child. That was considered in my day. The people were, just before my day, they were put in state institutions. Wet blankets, shock treatments. My God. Thomas Jefferson, Madame Curie, Mark Twain, not to mention a whole bunch more. I think George Washington's in there. I got a shirt that depicts the people that were autistic in this world. Great people that you know that created this country. You know, these famous painters, Van Gogh, these people were autistic. Kids that are autistic, they are precious. I have a gift. It's not a curse. Autism is not a curse. It's a gift. You people that want to put us on Prozac, that want to give us drugs for ADD or something, is it because you don't understand the drug? It's because you haven't got the patience to understand. You're too busy. You're destroying a whole adventure. Everybody has their own adventure with God. You're distorting that adventure. You're ruining their lives. The adventure, you're actually destroying your own adventure by destroying somebody else's adventure. What do you do to your own child and do to another individual? You all have your own adventure to live out with God from conception. Your parents, He knew when you was made in secret. Of course, He was in your parents the same way. Whether they're living or deceased, He knows exactly what happened. But now that when a person dies, you'll find out. You'll find out what's really going on. You'll say, my God, did I miss all this? Did I do all that? There's countries out there, like China, especially, that have abortions every day. The one way to stop God is by killing somebody else. I don't care for what reason, whether it's an honest reason in war. I don't care what reason. If you kill another human being, you have stopped the DNA. You have, in fact, stopped God in His tracks. You want to destroy God? You get rid of human beings, like we do every day. And we play games with killing. This world plays games with murder. They play games with killing each other. Even the war games that are so-called called legitimate. They're not legitimate. I mentioned before, Donald Trump figured it out in one sense. I'm kind of upset with him too, so don't think I'm a big fan. I'm really upset with him. But the fact of the matter is, he learned to fight wars with money, take the money away from these people. He did that with ISIS. I couldn't figure out the name of their names over the thing. I called them Al-Qaeda. They are Al-Qaeda, but they're the later form of Al-Qaeda. They're a splinter group of Al-Qaeda that were in Syria. See, I got my head on straight today. God's right with me. I can feel Him. And I know I'm not talking about this on my own. Now these, how do you say, people that want to listen to Satan or A&I? For God's sake, people don't, I mentioned that in my last video, or first video. A&I doesn't care about you. A&I does not have to eat. They don't have to sleep. They don't have any interest in keeping some baggage around that they would have to keep like a pet, like a dog, and clean up behind us. Lest this world just got like San Francisco full of crap. You know? just allow it to happen and walk on it yourselves. That doesn't make no sense. Drugs, people. When you take drugs, you're distorting your trip with God, your reality of what could be. Furthermore, people, there's so much homosexuality in this world, everything. If you want to be homosexuals, think about the babies. God is in those babies. God. The expansion of God. When you guys go about your perverted ways, whatever you do, you made yourselves gods. You made your ways a way just like anything else, but you don't take in consideration what you're doing. You're affecting not only yourself, but your unborn children. Now there's rules about, like in Christianity, it says that you're supposed to have one wife. And even if you come from a culture with multiple wives, if there's an order to it, you can't say it's wrong. You can't say it's wrong. We can't make a set of laws because we're not God. Okay? But everybody has to treat women special. And women have to treat themselves special. They're not just having their own life to live. They're living the lives of how many unborn children? I mean, if you want to go to war, think about what you're doing at risk. You're going to be ending the DNA of any future children if something happens to you. The men can't have babies. And what I'm trying to say is, if we keep on, even going into the military for a woman, you take the risk of killing future generations. Not only of your own DNA, but God. You're destroying heaven. You know, heaven no longer exists in those areas. You don't want to believe me. Just think about what I'm trying to say. Heaven's a place. It's a place for us when we die. Our DNA. It's our home. We live through others. So when you take that away, that chance that heaven can grow, you're doing exactly what A and I wants. You're doing exactly, if there is an evil, you're doing exactly what they want. Because they don't have to eat, sleep, or anything else. I mean, they don't have to breathe air. These things don't have to have food. They don't have to have water. So they're going to keep this world as a convenience to us? No, they're not. The responsibility is ours to think about our unborn children, especially you women. You men, you got a responsibility, as you always have, to protect the women, protect the children. See that God and heaven grows on. That's our job. That's our main job. Besides creating things, we have one big job to do, and that's to defend our precious women with eggs. We don't have the eggs. They have the eggs. Women have abortions. When you have an abortion, why didn't you just have your eggs harvested before you do something tragic like that? If you want to have free sex the rest of your life, and that, for God's sake, then go have your eggs harvested. Allow those children and heaven to expand. China, they have no problem destroying God. That's what they're out to do. But the Chinese need to get smart, and we need to get smart and help them. We could crush a place like China in one day's time. Easily. We just turn our backs to them. Don't buy their products. Ignore them. One day's time would hurt them so bad that they could never recover. Give them a week. My God, they would be under the table. But we don't have to go so far as to hurt the people, the actual Chinese, but give the Chinese the motivation to get rid of the leaders that have been putting people in jail as political prisoners and things. Put them in jail. Like they've been putting others in jail. Let them see what it's like. But don't do what they do. Using stem cells of abortions, collecting this stuff, so that they can live on forever, growing our own body parts. The idea, this is a tough world, a real tough world to live in. If you want to keep on collecting body parts to live forever, you are missing the point. You're missing the point. It's not bad to help somebody with lung cancer live a better life if they can bear more children and stuff. But you got to think about everything. Death is not that bad. Death is actually the biggest thing that's happened, because once we die, we can't be harmed again. But I'm not talking to anybody who commits suicide or trying to die early, because we have a job to do. That is to help raise these precious children as grandparents, as parents. We have to make sure that these people are listening and obeying to try to keep the common family together. Is not a sin. It's a blessing, because the families can help raise families. In my books, which further, it's a fictional story. It's a novel, but it has very noble ideas. A character I created was Michael II, the grandson of a priestess. Michael II, I've touched on him, he had really a noble causes, right? Like teaching every children. He was paying every children to learn. He was paying for every achievement. If a child learned to walk, he learned to talk. If he potty trained, whatever he did, he or she did, anything any child did, they would get rewarded. The same thing, they would got paid to go to school. My God, is that such a stupid idea that this government actually pays us to learn? Holy cow, that would be the biggest blessing anybody had. We'd be the smartest culture is. Let our paychecks reflect the fact that we do nothing more but educate our kids, not just hospitals and healthcare, but pay for our education's kids. I wouldn't mind giving 50%, 70%, a whole bunch of money. I don't care if it's 70% of our money to the government. If they were actually come up with programs, not for groups, for individuals. Let individuals learn at their own pace. I don't care how they do it. Make creative video games, creative whatever. Teach in a way that is so interesting and so fun. Teach in a way that's so exciting. But don't have it as a group. Give every kid a laptop. Give every kid a computer. And let them have at their own thing at their own pace. And if they're getting paid, of course, they would go at their own pace. They might want to get more money faster. These kids might be graduating high school in preschool. You know what I'm saying? You don't know. This is like that's an exaggeration, but they would at least skip a couple of grades. But I don't know. There's people like Sheldon. I mean, 14 years old. He's finishing school with a doctorate. I don't know. That's pretty stretch for a lot of people to imagine, but I think it's true. I think it could be true. The autistic kids that I've read about in the past that could play Mozart, Beethoven on pianos just by hearing it. My gift, like I said, whether it came from God or it came from, actually it had to come from my autism, but still was from God, was I'm a visionary. I can actually see the story evolve in my head. You start telling me a story, I used to go to tell my mother, Mama, I'm going to bed, I'm going to watch TV. I wasn't talking about real TV, I'm talking about the TV in my head. My imagination, it can dream up any dream, visualize it. And you start talking to me and telling me that, I'm referencing that in a story. I'm making an own movie. So I'm trying to make a point that all life is sacred to God, because we all have a walk with God. We all have to create things for God and our ancestors in our dreams. We're doing that in our inspiration, inspiring. I told you before in my first video, I was working on a house. I've been working on it 33 years. I could have built it in 33 months, probably maybe 3 years, 3 months. Had I had the funds and listened to God. And the truth is, I had the money as many times over and didn't do it. I worked a lot of nuclear jobs. I was a crane operator for 35 years. A lot of my nuclear experience with cranes is working in nuclear fields, picking up heavy things like the reactors and turbines and things like that. Yes. Westinghouse, I worked for them 8 years. We picked up the reactors and renovated them, changed them around, modified them, and we actually replaced the reactors. It's called a head replacement. It wasn't the whole reactor, it was just the main part of the reactor is called the head. And I was in their program changing the heads of reactors. These things are really, really heavy. And I don't know, I'm not consider myself I'm not going to say I'm not a good operator, because that would be a slap in the face to Westinghouse and anybody else that hired me. I must have had something in me. But I don't say I was the best operator in the world, and I'm not going to say I was the worst. I tried to help a lot of ones, especially in Iraq, to understand. One of my friends, Dennis, he's picking up, he's using the biggest cranes in the world right now, crawler cranes and things. He knew a lot. But he was reluctant to listen to me on a few things, because basically he got lazy over there a little bit. He didn't want to move his crane closer. He wanted to just, keep on stretching out to go get further and further picks. That's a dangerous position. Move the damn crane. Get it a little closer. Now let's get off the cranes and let's talk about evil. Like I mentioned in the first video, the Indians believe that you should keep your distance away from evil. What is evil? Everything unseen, but you can hear it, and you can feel it, and you know when you're getting in trouble. These girls that got their hormones going in a rage and stuff, and they put on all this makeup and everything to make themselves attracted. Wow. That's almost the start of evil. That's like putting yourself right out there as bait. You're gonna end up with children, which I'm not against you having children. I'm against my children having parents, which I say my children, any children in this world, any children of God. They need parents. They need grandparents. They need us all. They need our guidance. We're the mouths of God. We're the mouths of our ancestors, the mouths of our parents. Remember I told you God has no mouth. He has no hands. He has no feet. We need to be able to run to pick up a child that's just fallen, or keep him from getting getting from a dangerous place like falling down the stairs. You know, how many times do you run after your kids to keep them safe? Well, by God, that's one of the reasons. That's something God can't do. That's what I said 2 years ago when I became a minister. That was one of the things, that was the reason I became a minister. I was having a fight with God before then. I was having a huge arguments with God. I saying, hey, if you can do something about it, why don't you do it? How can you let this stuff happen? And he did not, you know, I just turned 69 years old, and I was 38 when the first time I was hit by the Holy Ghost. Now, you guys will have to explore that one on your own, because I really can't go into Christianity. Because I need this to be about God. Every religion, Buddhist, Muslims, Indians from America, and Indians from India. I can speak a little Hindi. Why? Because I was a crane operator. My guys were Hindis. They were telling me about India. They called me Baba, which means father or grandfather, or it's a respectful way. Little Bear called me Godman. He says, I'm Godman. Why? Because in India, you have a lot of Godmen. You know, the guys that stand there for their whole lives in one position, grow their fingernails quite long, or their twisted bodies, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? One guy looks like an elephant. I mean, it's like, wow, these guys, but that was their way to get attention and get money. And he'd pray. Now I can tell you this, even though that guy did that, you know, he was, in a sense, a God man. Why? Because he spent his whole life intercessing for you in prayer. He twisted his body. And he is praying for you in honesty. Why else would he be sitting there? Why else would he do these things? So he, in fact, doesn't even know it, but he's praying to God in your behalf. You know, it's kind of crazy, but when we go to church, we bring God to church. We don't go to church to find God. I don't know if that concept anybody ever figured it out, but it makes a little sense. But the Indians, I mean, I speak, you know, every time I go to a store, I say namaste, which means hello. And I say sukriyam. Sukriyam means thank you. I can count. Ik, do, tin, char, sat, art, no, dos, yara, bada, ter, choda, banda. If you're Indian, you know I know. I can speak some. Because as a crane operator, that was counting up to 19. But anyway, what I'm saying is, because I was a crane operator and they were my things, I'd say, upar, that's up. Niji, down. Baya, to the left. Daya, Baya, daya. Daya is the right. Okay? These things are like it's common sense when you're around other people to try to learn a little bit and to communicate a little bit with these people. I did the same when I was at the first base and we had Iraqis. So I learned Wahid, Nos, Arfa, Hamza, Sita, Seva, Neva, Dain. You know, just saying, as far as up and down, it was like Arfa, Neser. Arfa is up. Neser. Estra, Imna. It's left and right. Okay? Oh, by the way, it's not, Arfa was not the first number. That's Arfa means up. Wahi is the first number one. But And if you're Muslim and you're thinking, you get this video, you're going to know, hey, God's taught me a lot. I've seen a lot. You can't account for my life if it wasn't for God being in my life all my life and talking about it to you. He knew this stuff. I didn't have a clue. I would have been the last choice for what I'm doing right now. Moses was the last choice to him. I mean, he stuttered. He wanted his brother Aaron to do the speaking for him. More elegant guy. You know? But we're not special. Moses wasn't special. I mean, Moses was special and I'm special, but we're not special to you. You're special. Everybody on this earth, I don't care who you are special. Your and your children especially are very special. The unborn children are special. Come on, we're human beings. Figure it out, people. You guys want to start making rules to kill babies? What the hell are you guys thinking about? That is so stupid. The human beings killing human beings. Now, if we want to crush human beings, like we want to stop China from doing these things, yeah, that's easy. I said we can do it one day. We can put a hurting on them so bad they can't recover. That's everybody turning their back on them. Guys who say the same thing about Muslims. You want to get rid of Muslims? Turn your back. Turn your back one day on Islam. Or point your finger at them. Point your finger at Medina. Let them pull their Quran out. And when it says that they attacked Muhammad with his greatness, attacked Mecca with 10,000 soldiers. And the Meccans only knew they had watched Muhammad's children, his sons. They weren't children, they were like 20 years old. But he watched his sons die. He watched his daughters kidnapped and raped and married into a Shiite culture, which is nothing but Islamic leaders. Back then they had to say, well, if I got I'm going to be the direct descendants. I'm going to create the direct descendants of Muhammad. Well, that by rape, by kidnapping, they had to do everything to keep the man's mouth shut. Now, I won't redo that. You got to listen to the second tape. But the idea is we have a twisted world. And this whole thing is not rocket science like I keep on saying. It's not. It's easy to figure out. They didn't know anything about DNA till this last century, you know? But now that we know, we've discovered God. It only makes sense that DNA is our heaven because that's where we go when we die. Our DNA travels on. Our DNA keeps on going. And if we're in our parents' DNA, where is God? He's in our DNA. He always has been. From the beginning. Like I said, I can't keep on repeating this thing about rocket science, but it's not hard to figure it out. But it's dangerous to bring it out. How much popularity is built around protecting fairy tales, their own way of thinking. Dalai Lama, he's a very smart man, but when he thinks he's reincarnated into a bird, his ancestors haven't, they should be telling him different. And believe me, he's always listening to his parents. He's always listening to his ancestors. He's always in communication with the God. And by now, he shouldn't be thinking about what he's been saying. You can't change your DNA. You can't put it into your neighbor or be part of a neighbor or another family. Nor can you become something else other than what you are. So I'm not saying he's not reincarnated. His mind is reincarnated. His DNA is reincarnated over and over and over. Everybody's DNA is being, you're being reincarnated over and over and over and over. But not as Michael Jackson. You can't be somebody else. Whoever you want to be. It's your DNA. It's just the way it is. Now, I'm trying to think how to say what I'm going to say next clearly. And God help me. But what I'm trying to express to you, there's a war going on. A real war. Between ignorance and knowledge. Okay? Ignorance was the thing of before. Today we have computers. Today we have smartphones. Today we have worldwide communication. I can't do this job alone. I'm going to die before I can accomplish getting this story and my books. I would love the people who buy my books as a part of understanding some of the stuff I can't say here because I'm just run out of time. I can't read my book to you you would fall asleep at the first few pages, It's not the way to do it. But two things you have. You have access to the stories and its things to further information for your own enjoyment. But you can also see through my characters how one man can change this whole world. And he did. Simple things. I took Kempo in high school. A couple of years of it. 2-3 years of it. My friends, Sandy and his brother Chet, me and their cousins, we were taking Kempo in backyards. They don't even call him sensei. That's a Japanese word. You can't call, you don't want to call somebody that's doing Kempo, which is a Chinese style. You can't use Japanese words because they actually killed all the Buddhist monks. They're guilty of killing all the Buddhist monks with weapons, guns. The United States give them. That's how they killed the samurai. That's how they killed all the monks before they beheaded them. This is the Japanese. We keep on talking about having gojos and wearing karate gis and everything. They were butchers by using guns, the equalizers. They couldn't compete with the Buddhist monks or the samurai. And the Buddhist monks, the samurai. The only reason it had to have weapons. No, the Buddhist monks didn't use weapons. They might have used a bow if they had to from a distance, but they used their hands. And this other thing about the Buddhist monks in Kempo. If there's a fight, it's not Kempo. There is no fight in Kempo. There's a rule. There's going to be a strike, a first strike and a second strike. You're going to make the first strike or I'm going to make the first strike. But there's going to be a first strike. But there's not going to be a second strike. That second strike has to dislocate, break the other opponent so they can't ever throw it back at you. And then you finish the job, the thing. If he's trying to kick you one leg, you take his other leg out from underneath him. You break the man's back. You break his feet. You break his hands. You break his elbows. Take his knees out. It's like Kempo was it's called the art of war. It was passed down by the Chinese, ended up in Hawaii. There's this, he's a grand master called James Eyebrow. Now, when he does a kata, which is a dance, it takes him, I think it's like a 4-hour video to see the whole kata. It's a dance. The man's 80 something years old. He doesn't look like he's 80 years old, but he moves so fluently. And and the thing about the kata is envisioning yourself taking on 100 guys. Taking on 100 guys, making moves that is just in a dance. But he's not refighting each one person. He's taking each one out. And that's kata is a form of a dance. And you do this dance all your life, teaching other people this one dance. What's it like when he gets 25 people around him? What's it like when he gets 5? He just has to go into the form of a dance. And he starts breaking bones and getting them out of the way. I would not go up against an 85-year-old man that knew Kempo and think that he would, think that he couldn't defend himself no more because of his age. Because he's more like a machine. He's going to put those moves on you. He's done them so often. Even the masters of this country can't take him on at his age because he has visioned himself and he's mastered teaching how to take out hundreds at a time. And they're not getting back up. We're not talking about fighting these people. We're talking about getting them out. Now, Michael, too, in the book, that's what he does. He teaches the people this type of defense. Now, you're not actually killing people when you're using Kempo. You could. I hope, God, nobody ever does, because that's, like I said, life is precious. The manifestation of God has to be done through us. We're the ones that have the ability, especially the women, to have children. And not just have children. Don't bring up children to destroy each other. Don't teach your kids how to, when we build A&I and things like that, make it where we can unplug it, for God's sake. I'm not saying A&I is completely wrong or bad. It helps us. But don't let it control us. Don't make it know who's the boss. If you want to make intelligent A&I, holy cow, we're in trouble. God will. They could decide themselves to create themselves, getting that smart. And God's out the picture. Human beings are out the picture. That's not fiction. That's just common sense. Everything I'm trying to tell you, between the darkness and the light, what we've created. I talked to a salesman yesterday. He come to the house. While he's trying to sell me the security equipment and talking to me about security. I already had the same type of security, just a little different company. They might do a little better job. But the point of the matter is, when I started talking about God, he started listening. He was a Christian. But he started listening about God, and I told him how I couldn't mention Christianity in this. I'm talking about God, common to all religions. And he was listening well. I can put the argument to anybody. Oh, I wish rabbis were in front of me, priests were in front of me, the Pope was in front of me. I don't care who, any preacher was in front of me. I wish they could explain to me anything anything that they can possibly say. There's nothing they could say. They're like, yeah, they just don't know what to say. They won't acknowledge it. They or I have been acknowledged where I said, yeah, I can see where you're going with this, right? It's nice. I'm not trying to start for power or money or anything like that. I'll be satisfied just going to bookstores the rest of my life. Will they sell one book a day or whatever? As long as I make my lunch money and gas money, I'll go. Hopefully it's not that, because I need people. I cannot do this job myself. I can only, and I'm going to tell you, I'm only going to be in the United States long enough to get my first edition done. I'm not going to be able to sign books and stuff because I'm headed to another country to put it in Arabic first. Why would Arabic? To get to the Muslims. I will have to end up going, I want to go to Ethiopia. I would live in Ethiopia, but Ethiopia is nowhere as big as a country as the Muslim is a nation. Neither is India, but India is huge. But I didn't mention them before, but I do want to go to India, yes. But I'm not out there to crush the Godmen. I'm not there to crush any religion. You people have to keep going to your own churches. You have to keep going to the same places you've always gone. Don't say that they're wrong because they have God in them as well as you. But rather, whatever they lack, you need to pick up on. I was telling you how they would go out to Ruby Tuesdays and eat fine dining with their cliques, with their little precious groups. But somebody now, that police didn't have that, if they had anything. And that's who we need to look out for. We need to go in there and look for the person and take them fishing. Go visit them. See them. Talk to them. Find out if they have problems. What they have. Now, I am not taken to beggars. I'm not taken to anybody that has the ability to do something. Virtually, that's everybody. I don't care even if you're disabled, deformed. Everybody's got God in them. And everybody has their own thing. If they listen to the inner voice. For God's sake, how many guys are coming back from Iraq turning into gold miners, turning into athletes, turning into, doing all kinds of things. And they lost their arms, they lost their legs, but they didn't lose their souls. That's what you want to call it. They didn't lose that. And the media is more than happy to make up these reality shows, which is nothing wrong with that. I watched the Brown family, up there in the mountains there, the whole place caught on fire while they're still building it. It's like, yeah, I love to watch things like that in a way. But I know that the Brown family wouldn't have what they have unless that reality show wasn't bringing in caterpillars, bringing in the lumber. The Rainies, they go out this Homestead Rescue. They do a great job. They're wonderful people. But they didn't exactly come in there with the trucks that can drill wells, caterpillars, track hose, all this stuff. But their own funds, they would never got that far. These ones that's up there in Alaska, they're living below zero. Yet you watch them building something with electric. They might, battery-powered saws, reciprocating saws, screw guns, You watch them with all these ATVs. The same goes with the ladies up there in the Life Below Zero. She's always talking. She's a nice, she's a very intelligent woman, very intelligent and brave woman. But she still wouldn't be where she's at. Talking with the stuff she's got. Same stuff. She's got the impact driver when she needs it. She's got the screw guns. She got the cutting torches. She got the whole welding. It amazes me that these people, if it wasn't for the reality shows giving them these things, which is really altering their living. Now, one thing I'll say that they have proven to me that they're living closer to God than you can't get no closer to God because there's nobody else. They're alone. If it wasn't for the camera people, they basically chose to be alone. The mountain men that's my favorite thing because the mountain men are true. They live alone. They weren't looking for the camera people from the beginning, but it was a convenience, but they still don't. The point of the matter is these mountain men that live up there, they know who God is. The Brown family knows who God is. The Rainey's know who God is. All of them. You can't do something like that if you know. Who do you think sent the media up there? God. What do you give them the thought of the reality shows? God. The Deadliest Catch. My God. We're surrounded with the dealings of watching how God works. And we wonder how these things, we've got so smart and intelligence in doing things. We're only listening to our ancestors and God all the time. When we create something, we've created, Einstein. Einstein wasn't a thinker on his own. He had his family and ancestors with him. They were all smart people. They were all heavy thinkers. I had a grandfather, great-grandfather from Spain. Okay? My great-grandfather was a mechanic. He was a mechanic in Spain. The man drew like Da Vinci. He drew. I saw the drawing. I don't have the paper now. My cousin Johnny has the original. But he drew a dragonfly, helicopter kind of device. In 1909, he had a motor, a 90 horsepower motor. He wrote a letter in English now, but his handwriting looked like that in the Bible, of asking the city of LA to buy some of his property because the first set of wings that he built from brazing wire together with my grandfather was too heavy. The man he worked with, Mr. Biscar, I think his name was, he's the one that invented barbed wire. So through his metallurgy, they tried to find lighter metals and things and get it going. My grandfather died with the hopes of making that machine. It would have predated the helicopter. It flew like a dragonfly. It was supposed to drive. With the 90 horsepower motor, we're talking about 1910, 1901, something like that. It was very early. There's a lot of stories to tell you about my grandfather in Spain, but he ended up in the United States because he was exiled from Spain. Okay? My family is still a noble, very noble family. My grandfather, he turned out to be a mechanic just like his father. But when he's living through the Depression and everything, he made everything from Hollywood movies. He was one of the gangsters on the sides of the truck. That guy was getting around. He was doing all kinds of interesting stuff. Everybody in my family's been kind of like, I don't know. You can't tell us that God wasn't they're putting everything together for a reason. It was all like, and that's what my problem. That's one of my biggest problems with God was. I mean, I had a Forrest Gump life. Forrest Gump didn't have nothing on me, but why me? Why treat me good? I hate that. I told you I couldn't stand a bully. Why treat me good? Give me everything, and then I had to watch somebody else being tortured, suffer that I couldn't get to because I saw it on TV. That ain't right. I told you wiped my brother out in Vietnam. He was a corpsman. When he first got to his mass unit after first year in Vietnam, they put him in a mass unit because he's been up in the front lines for a year. First thing a lieutenant just got there wanted to do was go on a 20-mile hike and told him to get all his gear together and go. Well, my brother ended up going there with a little bit of stuff that he had left. It was not, three uniforms and a brand new pair of shoes. When he got out there, that lieutenant said, "You go get everything you was issued, and you go get it reissued to you, and then you follow back in here." Well, my brother kind of gave him the 4-letter word plus the word "get" in front of it. It was actually a 6-letter word because it says ED on the end. But anyway, he gave him that word, and he ended up in front of the authorities in like what they call a captain's mass. And he said, "Put me back out in the front lines. I can't take this stuff. If I'm going to come back here, you call this R&R. This is not R&R. This is BS." So he ended up more or less in Cambodia, up in the top of Vietnam this time. He's still in Vietnam, but he's on the Cambodia border, where they come back and attacked us every night. Attacked him every night. But then we run back across the border. The army couldn't go back after them and start another war. So the Cambodians did that. Now, I don't know how much of this is my making it up or not, but my brother was involved as a corpsman, but also in Cambodia on a recon. I'm not sure, but I think he was on that kind of deal with, I can't remember the movie. It'll come on to me now, but the thing about it is they were going over the border to get this one rogue colonel or something, that he started his own army in Cambodia to take out everybody, and in order to get him, they had to have a recons, Marines, SEAL team, whatever, to go in. But I guess my brother ended up going there as a corpsman, because this guy had to be brought back alive. There's no telling what they learned from him, because this colonel or whatever it is was pretty high up there, and he had a lot of knowledge. My brother got not the Bronze Star, he got the Silver Star. He got my Silver Star for something. Now, whether that story there is true, I don't know. My brother never talked too much about it. I don't know. But I can only imagine him. I'm not sure if it was a picture called Armageddon or something like that, or if you know the one I'm talking about. Charlie Sheen played in it and stuff, and they went after Marlon Brando. But that's what my mind just wants to go to. But I know Fred, my brother, did something very great. When he was in Treasure Island with malaria, when he come back after being debriefed. And they said he put him up for the Silver Star. My brother knew what it was for saving that asshole. And when he got there, it was basically, he said, no, forget that. He'd been putting bodies together for almost 2 years. Saving screaming, squealing pigs. You know, that's what they sounded like. The soldiers, whenever they got hit and stuff. And and my brother wouldn't say nothing about this, but when you got that kind of job, anybody that's squealing like a pig is alive. It's the ones that aren't squealing. That's the ones that you got to see to first. It's a terrible, terrible thing is war. And terrible, terrible, and for the reasons you're there. No reason at all. Aiding France. Because France wanted to put their plantations in there, throw their whole economy and everything out of whack. When we go to other countries, we don't take in consideration what we're doing to that country. Because you throw their economies and stuff out of whack. We change the power. It's in favor of one and not in favor of the other. It's like we have screwed things up over and over throughout this world. We did it in Africa. We did it in India, or the British did it in India, Hong Kong. It's not necessarily all bad, because we know today Hong Kong is one stronghold against what China's doing. Well, did they ever succeed at that? Well, they need our help. They need our help to stay kind of free. But we also got to understand our monetary system can't be worldwide. It can't keep on negotiating and using our system in those countries. If I print my books and things, I'll print my books in those countries. 77 different languages, using their currencies. There could be currencies out there still using rocks and marbles for currency. And they'll get it printed for a few rocks and marbles. And they'll sell it for fewer rocks and marbles. But you can't put the dollar bill in there. You can't put anybody else's currency in there. Because the idea is you want to sell books. I got to get the word out to everybody in this world, but I can't do it alone, and I can't do it with... I need people, but I don't necessarily need everybody from America involved. I need the world involved to carry on my work. And when I get through in America, like I said, print my limited edition, I will be leaving here and going to the places I wrote about. And then I'll still keep on going as long as I live, to every place. And I'll recruit everyone from that 77 languages to do the same. Not just print my books, but to spread the message. That's more important than my books. Spread the message. Where's God live? Come on, people. He lives inside your DNA. Where do you go when you die? To live with God. Where? In heaven. What's heaven? Your DNA. Why the DNA? Because we live on through our DNA in our children's lives and in their children's lives, and on and on and on. We are in fact immortal. Because we can't be harmed. We don't feel. Well, we do feel. I'm sure we do feel. But there's nothing we can do about it. I know our parents and God, they're not. If they're in their DNA, they can feel what we feel. They can hear what we hear. They can see what we see. There's nothing hidden. They can smell what we smell. Good or bad. hear what we hear, good or bad. See what we see, good or bad. What God can't do and our ancestors can't do is talk. Not in the sense of speaking speech. They talk up here all the time. When we finally get exhausted and we have to go into REM sleep, that's when we just can't listen no more. They have talked us out. When they get up in the morning, they're the ones rolling us out of bed. Come on, get up, get up, get up, get up, get up. You got to go. Remember, you got this important message. You got the important thing. You got, look at the sun's up. Everything's going. They're talking all the time. My mother, she likes to sometimes tell me, she always tell me to make my bed. But then when she tries to tell me to do it right, like she was a head nurse, with the hospital corners and all, I said, come on, back off, Mom. But I don't go around talking like I'm talking to you right now very much to my parents or anybody. I pray with what they call in tongues, a language. And I'll tell you this, it's got to do with Christianity. But tongues is a language that it's not supposed to be interpreted. It's your own language. It's a language given to you as a gift between you and God. It's not supposed to be interpreted. It's not supposed to be understood. That whole thing written in their book, the Bible, was written by a man that was he was full of himself. And he pretty much wrote 1/3 of what's inside the New Testament. He wasn't there. He wasn't an apostle. He wasn't with Christ. We know who was with Christ was the apostles, was the Ethiopians. So he just kind of come in there. He was, I think it was the Sanhedrin or somebody. He was a high Jew. He persecuted his own people, Jews. And then he wrote this thing, intelligent guy. He writes all these things about the what happened. And he goes to churches, theologian, Colossians, Philippians, Ephesians, all over Syria, all over, the Middle East. And he stayed on his throne. He actually kind of wrote the thing about churches, what he thought was good and ones that he had something against. He has all these things that he put himself above God. Now keep in mind, I don't care who he is, still has God in him. But I think there's more of himself in there than there is God. Every church has a pastor that one time or another hits the nail on the head that's listening to God. Then there's another time when it's obvious that and I do that. I do that myself. Everybody's going to do it. You got to wonder whether it's me or God. Now, I try to make it in these videos where I'm not using notes. And I tell you I'm almost blind anyway. I can't read, not no teleprompter or anything like that. And I'm still a writer, but thank God you can do it nowadays through dictation, and I haven't got to that yet. But the point of the matter is, everybody is going to be wrong in it. But this world is full of speculation, judging, making judgments. And they're worried about others. The walk is individual. The walk started at your conception with God. Nobody needs to come between that. Every one of us needs to follow an adventure with God. Sure, you can have friends, but don't interrupt your friends' journeys either. You have to stay out of each other's way, kind of like in the book when I told the kids were going to school at their own pace. They're going to school at their own pace. Don't disrupt his studies, because you're bored. When you could earn as much money as you can by going faster and learning more. That was one thing. Well, that's the same thing with God. You got somebody else, and all of a sudden they become your God, and you become your own God, and next thing you know, you got a big mess. We're not gods. In fact, we're not even, anything we do, it's actually, we're almost like puppets on a string. We've been puppets on a string. That's what this whole thing's all about. I'm sorry. But everything the way it is what it is because God made it this way for a reason. I'm doing what I'm doing for a reason. It wasn't I planned it out. It wasn't I thought about it. It wasn't it's not like something that Paul would have did. It's not a script. Wasn't foreseen. And I don't want to put I want you people to stay in your churches. Go to your churches. We take God to church, remember? We don't go to church to find God. But God can work the magic through you. Well, you don't have to get up there. When you get up there and accuse the person of being wrong, then you are wrong yourself. But rather, show each other what you learned from God by helping somebody, checking on the kids, making sure they're being nice to each other. Find out what God's been doing in their life, what they've been doing. But more than anything, everybody in church needs to, I don't know, basically thank God, thank their ancestors, and teach your kids the same. Talk about God. And maybe talk about a little bit about what you can do for God. You know? For those who are getting this message and things like that, help me research. Help me dig. You know, the Wikipedias and things, all these things, they come later. Wikipedia put tons and tons of speculative garbage over the top of real information. They thought they were doing a really cool, good thing. But today you can't find the truth. It's buried so deep. You really got to get down to those very first emails. Those very first articles. Anything. You have to get down to and that doesn't mean they're not been deleted. You know, so it might be impossible to find the truth that way. But somebody out there was there. Somebody there knows what you're talking about. You know, remembers. They remember the mosque. Ask somebody if they remember the mosque before it changed, when it depicted 90 gods on each side. Ask a Muslim now if they remember them. Don't go to Wikipedia. They'll tell you that never was. That's a lie. When you go to the Ethiopians, you talk to Ethiopians. Talk to the ones that make a difference. Don't go in front of the medias and stuff like that. Ask them behind closed doors. Search it out. Look in the libraries. Go to the Library of Congress, the place I wish I could have gone. You know, but we got to start, I don't know, we arm ourselves with knowledge. Arm ourselves with our hands. Remember I told you about the Kempo. Don't kill each other. Stop everybody from using equalizers. That stuff started with the United States, and And we used the emperor of Japan. That's what Hitler did. We didn't give Hitler his weapons like we did the Japanese. But pretty much they understood that equalizer was almost powerful enough to take this world. I don't know. But anyway, I got to go. I'm going to leave this message to you. I hope it's well taken. And like I said about Christianity, it's because I am a Christian. I talked a little bit about it. But this is my mystery is based on God for a reason. I try to leave Christianity out of it. Don't talk about it. Because it's not, God is God. Everybody's got God in them. I don't want to hear from Christians that the only ones that can be saved is the ones that believe in Jesus Christ and call out his name. Those words were written by Jews. And those were people that written by Jews didn't have anything understanding of Jesus Christ, nor would they want any understanding of Jesus Christ. You know? Well, they weren't necessarily all written by Jews. Like I said, the apostles, even Jesus Christ was a Jew. They were written by people that were once Jews. You know, so this is kind of like, I don't know, I might have got myself in a whole lot of trouble by just saying what I did about that. And I don't want to recant anything I said. Because everything I said, as far as I'm concerned, I will not go back and try to remake these videos, redo these videos, edit them down, whatever, because then I'm come to my own understanding. Then I'm decide I shouldn't have put that in there. No, I said I might have done something wrong, but it's in there because God wanted it in there, I guess. That's what I'm saying. It's not in my hands. What I said out my mouth came from me, but it also come from God. And if I go second guessing it, I try to edit it, I think it out, think it different, one way or another, I'm going against God. I'm ruling him out, and I'm saying I'm smarter than you. I can't live life without God. I don't want to live life without God. I don't want to second guess God. I don't want, he let anybody go anywhere they want to. He do anything you want to do. When I quit smoking, I put my cigarettes down at the altar. I never took another one. God helped me to get off those things. He helped me get off those things, and I knew if I ever let one touch my mouth again, ever, I'd be on my own. He'll let you do anything you want. He can't stop you. But if you ever ask God's help for something, and then you go back on it, you're on your own. You're on your own after that. And I believe me, I couldn't get off the cigarettes on my own. I tried so many times with every kind of conceivable way back then. But you can't do it. But with God, if you ask him to intervene, you ask him to stop something, and you go back on it, man, that could absolutely lose God's, because he's going to let you do what you want, and he's not going to help you. At least that's what I found out. And I don't really want to find out the root, what. I don't want to put God to the test. I won't. That's the way I think. I can't live without God. I can't live in, I know what I want to live in. I put him first in everything I do. If there's a penny on the ground, I see it. I won't walk by. God's already told me, Joe, pick up the penny. That's the least of what I have. But you people walk on it, don't you walk by it. You pick it up. Those coins say, in God we trust, and we walk on them. I don't walk on them. I pick them up. Been picking them up. I worked at Walmart for 4 years cleaning bathrooms. That's a long ways from working on nuclear reactors and pulling apart pulling turbines out of turbine buildings and things. It's like I said, I've had a Forrest Gump life, good and bad, you know. And I'll do anything now. God's really put my thing, but now I got focused on one job. That's to get this word out. And I had one way I had to get this word out was selling my books. But there we get to the point where it's not about money, it's just about getting the word. And I need you guys' help, at least to spread the word in the United States, to buy my books. If you can edit, help me. Join my ministry. Offer your things. I'm not above taking donations, whatever you want. I'm not a 501c entity yet. I would hope to be one day. I'll pay my taxes and do things. I'm not trying to avoid nothing here. It's only for your benefit that I be a 501c a tax-exempt corporation anyway, so that you can write it off. But I will ask you to help me, whether it's monetarily, because any monetary donation you have, I'm going to use it to buy books. Books that I can sell to increase the ministry or give away to those who can't afford it. It doesn't make no difference. It's like the person in church. They've never been to Ruby Tuesdays. They've never been to Fridays. They've never been to fine restaurants. They don't know what it's like to do that. And God bless them if they never get to one of them. Just offer them a home-cooked meal. Or go get the groceries and ask them if you can use their stove and cook with some pork chops and collard greens. You know, I used to do it all the time. I miss those days when I used to be able to take and go to my friend's house and cook up a mess of food that he hasn't seen food in a long time. Real food, other than cans or something like that, you know. Vanny sausages, potato chips. That's not food. I mean, it's good. I mean, I lived on it, but anyway, I got to go. We're getting ridiculous now. So I'm going to leave this message with you. It's my third video. When God starts bugging me again, I'll come up here and I'll turn the lights on the studio. And I'll start telling you what he said. Hopefully it's not going to be a whole lot of me. It's going to be a whole lot of God. Try listening to God. See if you don't hear somebody in the background telling you to roll out of bed. See if you don't hear somebody in the background talking to you about building something, creating something, doing something, anything. I can tell you who that is. It's God and your ancestors. Okay? I could have told you guys before. Like I said, I love everybody in this world, especially the children. I'm not out to make myself famous, put myself on a pedestal. I'm not special. You're special, okay? Love you. I'm going to turn this off right now, okay? Thank you for listening. Ciao.